In the summer of 1945, a farm boy from Ohio stepped off a troop ship, walked into his mother's kitchen, and set a heavy canvas duffel bag down in the corner. He never opened it again. 50 years later, his grandson found a Luger pistol wrapped in an old undershirt, still oiled, still silent. Scenes like this played out in millions of American homes. The men who won the war came back and said almost nothing, yet their footlockers, attics, and closets held secrets that would stun their families for decades. Number 9 on this list sold at auction for more than a new car. And number 2 was so common, the military printed special paperwork just to let the boys keep it. Before we count them down, hit that subscribe button, because what these veterans carried home tells the real story of the war. Let's begin with number 25. Number 25. German field binoculars rode home in the bottom of more duffel bags than almost anything else on this list. Sturdy Zeiss and Leitz optics, stamped with 3-letter maker codes to hide the factory, were pulled off dead officers, abandoned tanks, and captured command posts across France and Germany. A GI could slip a pair into his pack without a second look from the sergeant, and back in the States they made perfect hunting glasses. For decades they sat on mantels and in glove boxes, passed off as ordinary field glasses bought at a sporting goods store. Grandchildren borrowed them for birdwatching, never noticing the tiny eagle stamped into the leather case or the German lettering worn smooth by a soldier's hands. Oral histories recall veterans who used them every deer season, yet never once explained where they came from. Today, collectors pay $200 to $800 for a clean marked pair, and the quiet ones with real battlefield provenance climb higher still. Number 24. The German flare pistol was the odd trophy that ended up hanging in 1,000 American garages. Bulky and blunt, these signal pistols once arced colored flares over the front lines to call for artillery, mark positions, or warn of an advance. To a soldier walking through a surrendered depot, they looked harmless and strange, easy to toss in a bag as a keepsake that could never really hurt anyone. Back home, they hung on nails beside the fishing rods, brought down at cookouts so a veteran could tell a half story before going quiet again. Most families assumed it was a starter pistol or a tool for scaring crows. Diaries from returning soldiers mention them almost fondly, small souvenirs of a war too big to describe. Collectors today prize the aluminum-framed models and the rare double-barreled versions, with marked examples selling for several $100s and mint pieces fetching well over 1,000. Number 23. The Italian Carcano rifle came home in the arms of men who fought their way up through North Africa and Sicily. Long, slim, and cheaply made, the Carcano was the standard rifle of Mussolini's army, surrendered by the tens of thousands as Italian units collapsed and switched sides. American GIs, taught that captured enemy long guns could be kept with the right paperwork, grabbed them by the crate. Back in the States, the Carcano became the rifle nobody talked about, wedged behind coats in the closet or laid across rafters in the barn. Fathers rarely explained it, and sons rarely asked. Oral histories recall boys finding one during spring cleaning, the bolt stiff with old grease, a faded tag still tied to the trigger guard. Never as glamorous as the German rifles, the Carcano stayed cheap for decades. Today, honest bring-back examples with capture documents draw real interest, prized more for the story than the steel. Number 22. The Japanese Type 89 grenade launcher earned a nickname that nearly cost men their legs, the Knie Mortar. American troops in the Pacific found the small, curved base weapon and assumed the plate was meant to brace against the thigh. It was not, and the ones who tried it learned that lesson hard. As a trophy, though, it was irresistible, compact enough to strip down and carry home from island campaigns that had cost unimaginable blood. Veterans stashed them in tool sheds and cedar chests, the tube gone dull and harmless, a relic of jungle nights they refused to describe. Diaries from Marines recall the strange weight of carrying home a piece of the enemy that had shelled their foxholes only weeks before. Families discovering one at an estate sale often had no idea what it was, mistaking it for plumbing or farm equipment. Genuine bringbacks now sell for hundreds to well over $1,000. Number 21. The German stick grenade, the famous potato masher, came home only after it had been made completely safe, and thank goodness for that. GIS pulled the charge and packed the hollow wooden handle and tin head into their kit as one of the most recognizable trophies of the European War. The long-handled shape was unmistakable, and back home it hung in dens and rec rooms above the bar, a conversation piece that hinted at stories the veteran would never fully tell. Children were warned never to touch it, though most had long been rendered inert. Oral histories recall grandfathers who let the grandkids hold the empty handle just once, then locked it away again in silence. It became a symbol of a generation that carried the war home but sealed it shut. Today, deactivated examples with documented history sell for a few $100s, and the demand keeps climbing as the last veterans pass on. Number 20. The Italian Beretta model 1934 was the small, elegant pistol that slipped home in a coat pocket. Chambered in a modest cartridge and beautifully machined, it was the sidearm of Italian officers, and American soldiers in the Mediterranean took them as fast as they could be surrendered. Its compact size made it the perfect quiet souvenir, easy to tuck away where no inspecting officer would look twice. Back in the States, these Berettas ended up in nightstand drawers and cigar boxes, brought out rarely and explained even more rarely. Diaries note men who carried one for years as a personal keepsake, the bluing worn silver where a thumb had rubbed it. Many bore a small crest, or unit marking, that told a story the owner kept to himself. Collectors today value wartime-marked examples, especially those still paired with their original holster and any surviving capture paper at several $100s and up. Number 19. The Japanese Type 94 pistol traveled home from the Pacific with an awkward reputation and an even stranger design. Cramped and unusual, it was never a favorite, even among the men who issued it, yet to a homesick GI, it was proof he had survived places most Americans could not find on a map. Soldiers pried them from surrendered officers and dead defenders on islands whose names became legend, then wrapped them in oilcloth for the long voyage home. For 50 years they sat in dresser drawers and safe deposit boxes, wrapped exactly as the day they arrived. Oral histories recall widows who found one among their husband's things and had no idea it existed. The pistol became a small, sealed piece of a war he had chosen never to reopen. Today, collectors seek honest bring-back examples with matching numbers and clear provenance, paying anywhere from several hundred to well over $1,000. Number 18. The Mauser C96 broom handle was the pistol that looked like it belonged in an adventure serial, and every soldier who saw one wanted it. With its distinctive wooden holster that doubled as a shoulder stock and its slab-sided grip, the C96 had already been famous for decades before the war. Some were older heirlooms carried by German officers, others captured from the many corners of a sprawling conflict. American GIs who found one guarded it fiercely, knowing its rarity even then. Back home, it became the crown of many a footlocker, shown to a lucky nephew once a year, and then returned to its wooden holster and the back of a closet. Diaries recall the pride of owning something so unmistakable, so unlike anything in a hardware store. Today, the broom handle is among the most collectible pistols of the era, with clean, bring-back examples reaching well into the thousands of dollars. Number 17. The German helmet, that unmistakable coal scuttle silhouette, came home as the most recognizable trophy of the entire war. Battered, sometimes dented by the very fight that ended its owner, the steel Stahlhelm was pulled from battlefields, bunkers, and surrender piles across Europe. It was too big to hide and too iconic to leave behind. Back in America, these helmets led strange second lives, hung on garage walls, used to store bolts and nails, or even planted with geraniums in the flower bed. Children wore them running through backyards, never grasping what the man who brought it home had seen. Oral histories recall veterans who could not look at the helmet without going still, then changing the subject entirely. The paint, the liner, the maker stamps, and any hand-painted insignia all matter now. Today, an honest bring-back helmet with its original liner and documented history can sell for hundreds to several $1,000s. Number 16. The Japanese naval dagger came home from the Pacific as a quieter cousin to the famous sword, and often a more personal one. Smaller than a battlefield blade, with a lacquered scabbard and fine fittings, it was the kind of thing a sailor or officer carried as a mark of rank and pride. American servicemen took them during surrenders across the Pacific theater, drawn to the craftsmanship as much as the victory it represented. Wrapped in a sock or a shirt, the dagger made the long trip home and then vanished into a dresser for half a century. Diaries recall men who admired the workmanship yet never displayed it, storing it away as if the blade itself held memories too sharp to touch. Grandchildren often discovered them cleaning out a house after a funeral. Today, these daggers, especially those with signed fittings and original cord wrapping, draw serious collector interest and steady prices. Number 15. The Hitler Youth knife was among the most uncomfortable trophies a soldier ever brought home, and many kept it hidden for exactly that reason. A short blade with a diamond insignia set into the grip, it had belonged to boys pressed into a machine most Americans could barely comprehend. GIS found them in abandoned buildings and cleared towns, taking them the way one takes evidence of something that must never be forgotten. Back home, these knives rarely came out at all. Veterans buried them in the deepest corner of the footlocker, unwilling to explain the emblem or the sorrow it carried. Oral histories recall families who found one decades later and struggled with how to even hold it. It became a symbol of a war fought not just against armies, but against an idea. Collectors today handle such items carefully and privately, valuing them as sober historical artifacts rather than any kind of celebration. Number 14. The Iron Cross medal slipped home tucked inside a wallet, a matchbox, or a folded handkerchief. Small, flat, and easy to conceal, it was the most recognizable German decoration of the war, awarded across 2 world wars and instantly known to any American soldier. GIS pulled them from surrendered officers and captured supply rooms, sliding them into a shirt pocket where no inspection would find them. Back in the States, the medal lived in cigar boxes and sock drawers, brought out on rare nights when a veteran finally felt like talking, then put away again for years. Diaries recall men who kept one their whole lives, yet never framed it, treating it as a private token of something enormous. Families often found several tucked into a single box, each one a story never told. Today, wartime dated iron crosses with maker marks and any original ribbon are steady, sought-after collector pieces. Number 13. The Luftwaffe dagger was the trophy that looked like treasure, and it turned many a practical soldier into a collector overnight. Ornate, gleaming, topped with an eagle and finished in bright fittings, it was a dress dagger worn by German Air Force officers as a badge of status. American airmen and ground troops who came across one knew instantly they had found something special. Home it came, wrapped in cloth, and for decades it hung in a display case or lay flat in a velvet-lined drawer, admired quietly and explained rarely. Oral histories recall veterans who let a grandchild hold the dagger just long enough to feel its weight before locking it away again. The blade, the etching, the grip wire, and the maker's mark all determine its worth. Today, a genuine bring-back Luftwaffe dagger in fine condition commands anywhere from several hundred to several $1,000s among serious collectors. Number 12. The Japanese Type 30 bayonet came home by the thousands, long and slender and unmistakable. Designed to fix onto the Arisaka rifle, it was often the only trophy a Pacific veteran could realistically carry through the chaos of a surrender or the crowded hold of a transport ship. Light and flat, it slid into a duffel with room to spare. Back in America, these bayonets ended up in toolboxes and tackle boxes, repurposed as work knives by men who never mentioned their origin. Diaries recall soldiers who used one to cut rope on the farm for 40 years, the arsenal markings still faintly visible on the blade. Children found them in the garage and had no idea they were holding a piece of Iwo Jima or Okinawa. Today, collectors sort them by arsenal stamp, hook guard variation, and condition, with clean marked examples selling for a modest but rising sum. Number 11. The German bayonet found its way home in almost every returning soldier's kit, the practical trophy that could double as a useful tool. Compact and sturdy, it slid easily into a duffel bag without drawing attention, and it carried the satisfying weight of something taken from a beaten enemy. Back in the States, these bayonets lived in workbenches and kitchen drawers, pressed into service opening crates, cutting twine and splitting kindling. Few families knew the scratched blade in the junk drawer had been carried across a continent at war. Oral histories recall veterans who kept one on the belt during yard work every summer, yet never once described where it came from. The maker codes, the scabbard, and any unit markings now tell collectors its story. Today, matching bayonets with their original frogs and documented capture history are affordable but steadily appreciating pieces of that vanished generation's silence. Number 10. The Arisaka rifle came home from the Pacific in staggering numbers, the long gun that filled American closets after the surrender. When Japan capitulated, mountains of rifles were stacked and inventoried, and GIS were permitted to claim them with the right paperwork. Many bore a telling detail: the Imperial chrysanthemum ground off the receiver, a small act of surrender pressed into the steel itself. Home they came, laid across rafters, stood in corners, and forgotten. Diaries recall soldiers who kept theirs oiled out of pure habit, saying nothing of the beaches where they had earned it. For decades, an Arisaka was the rifle every kid found in a friend's grandfather's attic, dusty and heavy and vaguely forbidden. Today, the plain ones remain affordable, but examples with an intact chrysanthemum, a rare variation, or solid capture documents have climbed sharply as collectors race to preserve them before the stories are lost. Number 9. The SS Dagger was the trophy that sat quietly in a drawer for 50 years and then stunned a family at auction. Somber and finely made, it was among the most charged objects any soldier ever carried home, a blade tied to the darkest chapter of the war. GIS, who found one, understood its weight even then, taking it as proof of an enemy defeated rather than admired. Back in America, these daggers were hidden away, rarely shown and almost never explained, wrapped in cloth at the bottom of a footlocker. Oral histories recall grandchildren who discovered one only after a funeral and had no idea how to feel holding it. Because so many were faked in later years, a genuine bring-back with unbroken provenance is rare, and that rarity drives the price. Documented examples have sold for thousands, sometimes more than a new car, exactly as promised at the start. Number 8. The Nambu Type 14 pistol was the sidearm every Pacific veteran wanted, often called the Japanese Luger for its sleek profile. Taken from surrendered officers and the fierce defenders of island after island, it was the ultimate personal trophy of that theater, small enough to conceal and prestigious enough to treasure. Home it came, wrapped in oilcloth, and into the nightstand it went, brought out on rare evenings when a father finally felt like telling one story before falling silent again. Diaries recall the pride of owning the distinctive pistol, its grip angled unlike anything American-made. For 50 years, many stayed exactly as packed, matching numbers, original holster, spare magazine and all. Families often found them wrapped in a wartime newspaper, frozen in time. Today, collectors chase matching examples with intact clamshell holsters and clear provenance, and a fine bring-back Nambu regularly sells for well over $1,000. Number 7. The MP-40 submachine gun was the rarest and most tightly held trophy of all. The full automatic weapon Americans wrongly called the Schmeisser. Iconic and menacing, it was the sound of the German infantry, and a soldier who brought one home carried a genuine piece of history. But full auto weapons could not simply sit in a closet, and the law caught up with them. Many were deactivated, welded, or properly registered under strict federal rules, while others were quietly turned in over the years. The ones that survived legally became the crown jewels of a collection, kept in safes and shown only to the trusted few. Oral histories recall veterans who understood exactly what they had and guarded it accordingly. Today, a legally transferable, registered MP-40 is worth an extraordinary sum, often tens of thousands of dollars, a reminder that some trophies came with a lifetime of paperwork attached. Number 6. The K-98 Mauser rifle was the most common long gun trophy of the European War, the standard German rifle carried home by countless GIS. Reliable and well-made, it was everywhere on the battlefield and everywhere in the surrender piles, and the military's capture paper system made it easy to keep. Back in the States, the K-98 became the deer rifle nobody explained, sporterized in a garage workshop or left original and stood in a corner. Diaries recall fathers who hunted with one every autumn, the eagle stamps still visible if you knew where to look. For 50 years, it was simply the old Army rifle, its true history sealed behind a veteran's silence. Today, collectors have learned to read the maker codes, the year, and the matching serial numbers, and an all-original K-98 with its capture papers intact draws far more than the plain shooters prized as a vanishing bring-back. Number 5. The Japanese good luck flag may be the most moving trophy on this entire list, and its story is still being written. Before shipping out, a Japanese soldier would receive a white silk flag covered in handwritten messages from family, friends, and neighbors, prayers and farewells inked around the red sun. American troops found these flags on the fallen and folded them into their packs, often not fully understanding the personal weight of what they held. Home they came, tucked into footlockers where they stayed for half a century. Oral histories recall veterans who kept theirs with quiet unease, unsure what to do with something so intimate. In recent years, Organizations have helped American families return these flags to the descendants of the soldiers who carried them, closing a circle across generations and oceans. Their true value was never in dollars, but in the names still legible on the silk. Number 4. The Nazi battle flag came home folded into the smallest possible square, hidden in the bottom of a duffel where no one would look. Large banners were pulled down from captured buildings, town halls, and command posts as Allied troops swept across Germany, and to the men who tore them down, they were the physical proof that the regime was finished. But these were never easy trophies to live with. Back in America, most stayed hidden for decades, brought out for no one, folded away in an attic trunk. Oral histories recall families who found one after a veteran's death and did not know whether to keep it, donate it, or destroy it. Museums now accept many as historical documents of a defeated evil, valuable precisely because they must never be forgotten or celebrated. The signatures G.I.S., often scrawled across the captured cloth, turned each one into a record of the men who ended it. Number 3. The Walther P-38 was the pistol that quietly replaced the legend, and it came home nearly as often as its famous predecessor. Modern, rugged, and standard issue for the German military by the war's later years, the P-38 was pulled from surrendered officers and captured armories by the thousands. To a GI, it was a prize, just a step below the Holy Grail, sleek and businesslike, and unmistakably the enemy's. Home it traveled, into the sock drawer and the safe deposit box, wrapped and waiting through 50 years of silence. Diaries recall men who kept theirs loaded in the nightstand for decades, yet never explained the eagle stamped on the slide. Families discovering one often found the matching magazine and holster still with it, untouched since 1945. Today, collectors value early war examples, correct maker codes, and matching numbers, and a genuine bring-back P-38 with its capture paper is a steady four-figure treasure. Number 2. The Japanese officer's sword was the trophy so common and so significant that the surrender itself was built around it. When Japan capitulated, officers were required to hand over their swords, and hundreds of thousands changed hands in a matter of weeks. Many were mass-produced service blades, but hidden among them were ancestral family swords centuries old, carried into a modern war and lost forever to the families who forged them. American servicemen tagged, documented, and shipped them home in staggering numbers, the paperwork practically an institution of its own. Back in the States, the sword hung above the fireplace, the single trophy a veteran might display, though he rarely said how he got it. Oral histories recall the reverence men felt handling a blade they could tell was old and important. Today, collectors distinguish humble wartime blades from priceless antique treasures. And the finest have brought astonishing sums. Number 1. The Luger P-38 was the Holy Grail, the pistol every soldier dreamed of bringing home, and the one that has become the very symbol of the World War II trophy. With its unmistakable toggle action and elegant lines, the Luger was famous long before the war, and a GI who captured one had captured a legend. Officers, collectors, and ordinary infantrymen all wanted it, and men traded, bartered, and guarded them fiercely across Europe. Home it came, wrapped in an undershirt and oiled against the years, into the closet where it waited in silence for half a century. Oral histories are full of the same scene, a grandson opening a footlocker and finding the Luger exactly as the veteran left it, matching numbers, holster, and all. Today, a genuine bring-back Luger with clear provenance is among the most prized of all. Its worth measured in thousands, and its story in a lifetime of quiet. These 25 trophies were never really about the medal or the money. They were the one thing a generation of silent men carried home from the worst of the world, sealed in a footlocker because it was easier than finding the words. The veterans are nearly all gone now, and it is their grandchildren opening those attics and drawers, holding history for the first time and finally understanding the silence. If your family has a story like this, a Luger in a closet, a sword above the mantel, a flag folded in a trunk, tell it in the comments. These men kept quiet for 50 years. The least we can do is remember.